There's a smart home device sitting on the market right now that most reviewers are getting completely wrong. They're calling it a contact sensor. It's not. They're calling it a motion detector. That's not quite right either. What it actually does is something that didn't exist in the smart home space until very recently. And once you understand how it works, the way you think about every other device in your home starts to change. Here are the major things I learned after trying to replace multiple devices with just this one: the death of the magnet. If you've ever set up a door sensor, you already know the struggle. You have two pieces and they must be perfectly aligned to work properly. If your door frame is a weird shape, the sensor may fail completely. The same happens if your sliding door has a gap. The P100 eliminates the magnet entirely and replaces it with something more advanced. Instead, it uses a 9-axis system similar to the technology inside your smartphone. This is the part that knows when you rotate your phone to watch a video. It combines an accelerometer, a gyroscope, and a geomagnetic sensor to understand movement. Because it doesn't need a partner piece, you can stick it on the door and walk away. It doesn't care about alignment and simply detects rotation. But that convenience is also where the first limitation appears: the sliding problem. Because the device detects rotation, it works extremely well for swinging doors. However, sliding glass doors and drawers move in straight lines instead of rotating. In those cases, the P100 may struggle to detect movement effectively. This creates a classic tech trade-off between convenience and accuracy. We removed the frustration of magnets but introduced a system that depends on curved motion. If your environment mostly involves straight movement, it may not replace everything as expected. More than a door guard. Where this device becomes truly interesting is not the front door. It shines in its valuables protection mode, which goes beyond simple open and close detection. Traditional sensors are binary, meaning they only detect open or closed states. The P100, however, can interpret intent using its 9-axis system. It detects vibration, tilting, and even sudden drops. You could place it inside a jewelry box or a medicine cabinet. It won't just detect opening, but also tampering or unusual movement. This turns ordinary objects into smart data points within your home. It works for pet food containers, camera bags, or even liquor cabinets. By detecting tilt and vibration, the P100 acts as a subtle security guard. It sends alerts if someone picks up a bag or moves an object unexpectedly. It can also detect dragging movements across surfaces. This creates a privacy-first approach to home security. It focuses on object state instead of recording video. For example, placing it on a medicine cabinet allows safe monitoring. It detects even small movements like the swing of a cabinet door. The hidden secret: gestures. One of the most futuristic aspects of the P100 is its gesture control capability. It can act as a physical control interface without being an actual button. Because it detects vibration and knocking patterns, you can trigger automations easily. For example, knocking 3 times on your nightstand can turn off all the lights. You don't need an app or a voice command for this to work. It replaces digital commands with simple physical interaction. This changes how we interact with our homes in a fundamental way. We're moving away from voice assistants and towards tapping real-world objects. You can also assign actions to specific knocking patterns across different surfaces. For example, knocking twice on your desk can trigger an end-of-work scene. Your monitors turn off while your desk lamp shuts down automatically. At the same time, a fan or another device can power on instantly. You don't need to reach for switches or speak to an assistant. Instead, you interact directly with your environment. While it may sound like a gimmick, it becomes natural very quickly. Eventually, traditional switches begin to feel outdated. The Matter reality check. Not everything about this device is perfect, especially when it comes to Matter support. Matter is designed to unify smart home platforms like Apple, Google, and Amazon. The P100 supports Matter over Thread, which sounds ideal on paper. However, Matter currently limits advanced functionality for devices like this. When connected to Apple Home, the P100 behaves like a basic contact sensor. You only get simple open or close states without deeper intelligence. You lose advanced features such as sensitivity tuning and gesture triggers. The valuables protection mode is also unavailable in this setup. Features like vibration logs and detailed motion tracking are not accessible. This means much of the device's intelligence is effectively stripped away. To unlock full functionality, you must stay within the Aqara ecosystem. That requires using their hub and dedicated app. This creates a familiar dilemma between simplicity and advanced control. The battery and the build. Battery life is an important concern for a sensor with multiple motion detectors. Aqara claims the device can last up to 2 years on a single coin cell battery. This is achieved through efficient power management. The device remains in a low-energy waiting state most of the time. It only activates fully when movement exceeds a certain threshold. In terms of build quality, the P100 feels more refined than older sensors. It has a denser construction and more premium feel. The dark gray finish blends better with modern home interiors. This is a noticeable improvement over traditional white plastic designs. The installation reality. Now let's talk about what actually happens when you take this thing out of the box. Most smart home devices promise easy setup, but reality usually involves apps, pairing issues, and a bit of frustration. The P100, however, keeps things surprisingly simple if you stay inside the Aqara ecosystem. You attach it using adhesive, open the Aqara app, and it pairs through the hub in seconds. There's no need to align multiple parts or measure exact placement like traditional sensors. That alone removes one of the biggest pain points in smart home installation. However, placement still matters more than you might expect. Because it relies on motion detection, where you place it affects how accurately it reads movement. A poorly placed sensor may miss subtle vibrations or trigger false alerts. So while installation is physically simple, optimization still requires a bit of thought. It's not complicated, but it's not completely foolproof either. The everyday experience. After the setup is done, the real question becomes how this device feels in daily use. This is where the P100 quietly proves its value without demanding constant attention. Unlike cameras or voice assistants, it works in the background without interrupting your routine. Notifications feel meaningful because they're tied to physical interaction, not random motion or noise. You begin to trust the alerts because they represent real changes in your environment. Over time, it creates a subtle awareness of your space that feels natural. You stop thinking about the sensor itself and start relying on what it tells you. That's when smart home tech shifts from being a novelty to becoming genuinely useful. It integrates into your habits instead of forcing you to adapt to it. And that is ultimately what makes a device like this worth keeping long term. So, does it replace everything in your smart home setup? If you're tired of dealing with multiple piece sensors, it's a major upgrade. It creates a smarter and more responsive environment. However, it's not a perfect solution yet. If you think this replaces everything in your smart home, leave a comment in the comments section below and don't forget to subscribe.